Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you today. I'm Dustin Cormier. Today, I'm very happy to have my friend Kṣaṇāti here on our channel, How to Rock Spirit, to talk a little bit about his coming Parashara conference. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Kṣaṇāti.
Dustin, namaste. It's such a blessing to be invited to join your special Rock the Spirit community and to share some of the exciting events that are to come later this year.
Bless. I'm very excited to see how it all goes, and I'm very excited to have you on here with me today, buddy. Now, today's episode, I'm going to try to give a nice little glimpse of what this conference is all about. Now, Kṣaṇāti, you are a popular YouTube Jyotishi. You consider yourself to be under the lineage of Saint Amritananda Mahima. Your teacher, who also comes from this lineage, his name is Mahadev, lives in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. And if anybody's interested to get a hold of you, we had a little preamble earlier, and I wanted to mention that you are still doing sessions, and you can be found on your website, jyotishastrology.org. And anybody who's interested, you can also find Kṣaṇāti on his YouTube channel. It's Kṣaṇāti, but there's a K in front of it, so it looks like it says Kṣaṇāti. It's Kṣaṇāti Jyotish. And as well, you can email Kṣaṇāti at KṣaṇātiJyotish with the K in front of it, kṣaṇātiJyotish@gmail.com. So, Kṣaṇāti, it's a real honor to have you here on my channel. You're doing so much good for the Jyotish community, and you're getting to be pretty well known. It's awesome to see you really rocking it.
Thank you, brother. Jyotish was, when I finally stepped into Jyotish, when you're searching for that thing that is going to satisfy your spirit your whole life, and then you finally find it, you never know when you surrender to that path how it's going to unfold. But I'm very humbled to be carrying Jyotish.
Well, you deserve it, buddy, and you're doing so much work for Jyotish. You and I were talking earlier about how these days it can be such a funny, tricky thing to remain in a spiritual and the true root of Jyotish, which is to unfold the spiritual potential in everybody while still finding a balance in the material world. Of course, any spiritual person would say that material and spiritual are one, and this is part of our game. So it's awesome to see you doing work in the world for Jyotish. Now, the reason we're here today is to talk about a conference that you're holding. And I'm very excited to be seeing this conference happening. Now, for a little bit of background for everybody, you and I talked in our preamble. We discussed that Dennis Harness, and really there's been a crowd of people trying to make things similar to the Sedona conference, really. But since COVID happened, it's been tough to make anything happen in the physical world. So it makes sense that you're now doing a virtual conference this year. For everybody interested, you can find it as parasharaconference.com. I'm going to have links in the description so that you can check out the conference that's going to be happening. In fact, Kṣaṇāti has been kind enough to give us a little bit of a deal here. If you look in the description, and if you see this video, you have from now until September 1st to put in the promo code Rock Spirit, and you'll find it in the description. And if you put in this promo code you'll get the 10% off along with the early bird price, which almost adds to about 50% off on any part of the conference you choose or the whole conference itself. And those deals can always be very nice when you get them. So if you're deciding to get into this conference and check out the many well-known and established speakers, feel free to use that promo code and to get in the early bird price. It's a really great idea, Kṣaṇāti, and thanks for allowing me to do it on my channel.
Of course. I'm excited to see how many Rock Spirit codes come in. That'll be
Yes,
fun.
I'm very curious myself. So, Ksanati, I'd like to ask you. So you've been drumming up this conference for a while. I'd like to ask you, maybe we'll get right to the root of the nature of this conference while we're here. Why have you called it the Parashara Conference? What is the intention with this conference that you're holding? And I should ask, what's the date of it? That's something I should first ask to get
Of
it
course, the
specific.
dates are November 17th to the 21st,
Right.
Thursday through Monday of this year, 2022. So let's see, we got August, September, October, so it's about 4 or 5 months away now.
Right.
And as far as the drumming it up, hospitality has always felt natural to me. That's what I studied in college. I always, I'm an Aquarius ascendant. And so my Saturn's in the 11th house. So community has always been such an important part of my journey, to feel like I'm a part of some greater community, to serve that greater community. So, in developing a relationship with Dr. Harness over the years, and then him kind of energetically passing the torch over to me to carry on the conference, it's important to maintain a certain level of integrity. And so that's why I've chosen the title for the conference to be the 2022 Maharishi Parashara Conference. And if you're not too familiar with who Maharishi Parashara was, he's the original sage or rishi who kind of downloaded the science of Jyotish and then wrote it out. And
clairvoyant.
Yeah, considered a master kind of sage or of Jyotish. And so, in this age of technology, let's call it, what can happen with these ancient systems is there's a lot of information out there, but not all of that information is coming from a long sustained historical source. And the idea of Parashara kind of being one of these original sources of Jyotish. And there are some other master rishis that have Jaimini astrology, KP astrology, different forms of Vedic astrology, are all equally honored here at the Parashara Conference. But it's really about honoring the rishi, which is the ancient history, which is the ancient integrity of Jyotish over thousands and thousands of years. How do we honor these rishis like Parashara? And then that's the macrocosm.
Right.
And then the microcosm is that we have rishis, we have these great teachers in our lives that help guide us. And how do we show our respect and devotion to them? Which
totally.
is
those who are holding the torch.
Yeah, our lineages, our teachers in this lifetime. And then that ultimate microcosm, which is that there's a rishi inside of all of us. That when we align to our dharma and facilitate a proper spiritual sadhana in our lives, we have the potential to have the Jyotir Vidya, that great spirit of Jyotish, move through us the way it moved through Parashara.
Right.
And so it's that macrocosm and microcosm of honoring the ancient integrity of Jyotish, but also knowing that that is meant for this modern world that we're living into and the integration of it.
Wonderful. It's like a candle of that ancient torch is being leaned out to flicker on the Jyotir Vidya inside the rishi, inside of all of us. And this shows a respect to that consciousness. And it's wonderful that you and the whole team that you've got coming together underneath and over top and all around you. It's a wonderful thing to see it, because somebody's got to do it these days, especially with a nod of respect to the Maharishis and to the Parampara that has come before us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. So thank you for sharing, Ksanati. So for everybody interested, once again, you can check out all the links that we've got in the description to go ahead and see what this is all about. Now, while I'm here with you, Ksanati, I'd like to say I've made a little bit of a simple presentation to kind of just give a glimpse of what people are going to be seeing at this Parashara conference. I've done my little bit of research and made these images we're going to show. There's going to be more speakers than what I have here, but what I like to do is at least lend out what I know of the speakers that I've seen. One of those, I've noticed that you've got Sam Geppi is going to be coming along. There's a few name drops that we should make, but I'd like to mention you and I talked about how Sam Geppi is doing a lot to help you organize, and he is going to be even a keynote speaker at the conference. So would you like to give us a little rundown of, you mentioned that there's going to be an opening night on the Thursday. Could you give us a little rundown of what we could expect to happen that night?
I would love that. So I'm just pulling up, double checking the timing of it. So it's
sure.
5 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
And this is one of the things that if you actually go to the single lecture registrations is free.
Gotcha. Cool.
This is like free you don't even have to buy it. And there's going to be some faculty introductions. So where we introduce the different faculty members. And then there's going to be a Navagraha Puja, which is an ancient ceremony honoring the 7 major planets, Rahu and Ketu.
Right.
Done by a great pundit from California named Sama Vidula, who has historically been doing it at the Sedona conference.
Wow.
And then Sam Geppi is going to be doing his keynote speech, which we're very excited to hear. He's very articulate, great writer.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to be having an annual Parashara Award. And
Cool.
the Parashara Award is kind of honoring the Rishi of our generation. You know, the life's work that a Jyotisha has put in, and in honoring the Rishi inside of them, honoring the ancient Rishis that came before them, and really kind of embody that theme that we discussed earlier. And for now, we'll keep it under the scenes who will be receiving that award.
Right. Very excited to see who ends up getting it. Okay, wonderful, Kṣaṇāti. So this conference is going to be happening that midway through May, and anybody who's interested in checking it out ought to. Now, for our little bit of time here that we have, what I'd like to do is show a few little panels describing some of the people coming, and just only a few of the speeches and presentations that some of these people plan to make. For everybody interested, I am really just getting this off of the Parashara Conference website. If you go onto the parasharaconference.com website, you can see this as well as the full itinerary of speakers that Kṣaṇāti has put in the effort to bring together for this conference. Now, do you have anything else that you're thinking of to say, Kṣaṇāti, before we show our little presentation here?
Just really excited to discuss some of this incredible faculty that has blessed us to inaugurate this conference.
Totally. And that's right, because as we said, this is a virtual conference for now. And all of the proceeds, as you've mentioned, the proceeds that are going to be coming from this virtual conference are going to go towards next year and years to come in lighting the torch and starting what's going to be this same Parashara conference held at certain different places, probably in the States, as you mentioned, somewhat similar to the Sedona conference.
Yeah. Like I'll just quickly mention
sure.
That, here's a little hint to the community is like this year's virtual, everything as mentioned is going to go to having it in person next year.
Right.
And so I'm even starting to scope out locations. In October, I'm going to visit Asheville, North Carolina, and see some possible. So right now, that's the primary location. We're actually looking at hosting it next year.
Cool.
And some meetings in October to confirm or deny such possibilities. That's just a little sneak preview of the potential if you're in the North Carolina or just on the East Coast to know that it's going to be on the East Coast.
Right.
And if you're on the West Coast, Asheville's a very exciting city to think about taking a visit to.
Totally.
Musical city, great cultural city. And just that hospitality that you can't really explain. So Yeah, I'm just excited to discuss some of the faculty together.
Beauty. And for those watching, if anybody has any ideas or would like to throw into the hat for ideas for potential places or things of this nature, feel free to email Kṣaṇāti. We're a community. We're all here together to try and see where this Jyotir Vidya celebration can find its best fit on Earth. And we're all in here doing it together. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this. Now, let's take a moment here, Kṣaṇāti. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to look at a few of the presenters who we can expect at your conference. Now, I'm sharing my screen here. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, Kṣaṇāti, feel free to chime in anytime, my friend. This is just you and me just kind of having fun talking about this. This is our Maharishi Parashara conference. It's going to be happening November 17th to 21st, 2022. It's hosted by our man, Kshanati Jyotish. So we're going, yeah, go ahead, buddy.
One cool thing I just want to mention with all the names here that I see is that one of the most important things in my whole life has always been diversity. And so I just would like to quickly, because I know we have people coming from the East Coast of the United States, the West Coast of the United States, from India, from England, from Canada, from Denmark, from India, from Arizona, lots from India, from all parts of the United States, Canada, Europe. So, I mean, there's really, there's even some Australian origin stuff here. So really, this is a totally international conference. This list of names, it almost it covers 4 or 5 continents.
Totally.
That's cool.
Totally. And that's a key part of it, you know, because it's going to be interesting to see how all these different cultural vantages are different dimensions and shades of the same Jyotir Vidya. But seeing them all in their different cultural lights is a good way to bring it all together and to express the sort of unity that you are always expressing in any work that you do with spirituality, Kṣaṇāti. So it's wonderful to see this delightful cast of characters. Now, as I said, as we kind of come along here, I've made a simple little presentation. We're going to do as much as we have time for here because I'm keeping an eye on our clock because we don't want to go too long with this video. But as I said, this is just a few speakers that I've chosen to try and to speak to, at least people who I know who are going. One of them is Komilla Sutton. It's going to be awesome to see her sharing her knowledge. She's got 2 presentations. One of them is on Parashara's secrets of Vimshotri Dasha. Komilla Sutton is going to be talking about the key aspects of Parashara's wisdom on this topic, including techniques of interpretation, advanced rules, Dasha lords, the birth Dasha, the special influence of Rahu and Ketu, and even of retrograde planets. These are a few of the key aspects that Komilla is going to be talking about in her given talk on Vimshotri Dasha, which is going to be very nice because lots of people go at Vimshotri Dasha in many different ways. And even Parashara's techniques are interpreted in many different ways. I think Komilla is going to give a great sense of the root of it all. So, as I said, Kṣaṇāti, feel free to drop in.
I mean, I love this lecture. I'm really excited about it. Obviously, it goes directly to the theme of the conference. And this is one of those classes or lectures that you don't, if you're any level of advancement in astrology or interest in Jyotish, this is one of those classes for you because Vimshotri Dasha is one of the primary timing techniques that the Rishi Parashara uses. So it's a great introduction to a timing technique that's used commonly by Jyotishas. And so this is a great, in an advanced astrologer can get a lot out of Komilla's unique perspective on this. And a beginner astrologer can really understand and grasp the concept of Dasha or these planetary periods that we go through. that have such a profound impact on us.
Right. So Komilla is probably doing a little bit of an introduction for those kind of grasping at it, but I have a feeling that Komilla is really going to be going into some pretty intermediate level stuff at the same time.
Correct.
Just making sure we can see everything here. Good. Very good. So Komilla is also doing a wonderful class on the Dastanas. And what I really picked up from what Komilla was talking about in the Dastana, in her written report on it, is that there is so much stuff in astrology where people tend to look for the good things in astrology. Really, oftentimes, you would know this, Kṣaṇāti, as astrologers, most times what we're really working with people is the complex karma of life and how to deal with the difficulties and the unfavorable aspects of our chart. So it's wonderful that Komilla is taking a lead as a mothering influence in talking about the dusty corners of the astrology chart that nobody wants to talk to. And I think that that's what this presentation is going to be all about.
I love that, Dustin. Yeah, I think this is, really great, because one of the things that is important with, any astrologer I invite to present is that I already know that they're not a fear-based astrologer, because one of the things as Jyotisha that we have to move away from is a fear-based lifestyle, is a fear-based kind of fate. So Komilla does a great healing of us understanding the 6th, 8th, and 12th houses. And yes, the troubles that are created, but she's going to really highlight what we can do to resolve some of those troubles that are created in those houses. And so
wonderful.
I really like the solution of those karmas that can be challenging.
Totally. Totally. And it's important that somebody does it, So this is going to be a wonderful class here, and I'm excited to see how it unfolds. Now, of course, we can't do a Parashara conference without including Dr. Arjun Pai. Dr. Arjun Pai is going to have 2 presentations, and I'm not surprised. I often find that he speaks very strongly to the nakshatras, number 1. And as well, presentation 2 is going to be talking about the actual padas and how they relate to a person's karma. So for everybody watching, you can feel free to pause the screen and you can read anything that we don't specifically read in this video. As I said, I've basically just pulled these from the Parashara conference website. Dr. Arjun's first presentation is going to be on nakshatra quality, yoni, and sexual compatibility. I'm very excited about this because I think that this is going to be one of the great observable dimensions of the nakshatras. There's so much conjecture about the nakshatras these days in astrology. Seeing how our behavior interacts with our own nakshatra quality with a partner, I think is a great way to see it for ourselves and to start doing our own research on what we feel about the nakshatras. Would you agree with that, Kṣaṇāti?
I was going to say, well said, Dustin.
Thank you.
I think this is one of those classes which is deep, but also very fun and exciting because of the sexual compatibility aspect.
Totally.
And nakshatra quality, we're literally going to this, finding out the exact type of sexual compatibility. It's something that can be used as a tool. It's not like, okay, let's say you're married, for example, already. And then you go take Dr. Arjun Pai's class and you learn that actually you're not that sexually compatible with your married partner based on whatever research he shows you. Well, based on what is shown in that, you can actually heal that. Right. Oh, because this person's is more this way and this person is this way. You can see the middle ground where those two people compromise.
Right.
So a lot of times when we think of compatibility, I think we think in terms of is this person who we should be with or who we should not be with? And I like thinking of it sometimes, and I know Dr. Pai, and how can we make the love that we have work? Right. And how can we stay dedicated in the relationship that we're in? through learning these aspects.
Right. Because no matter what the form of the love that comes through is, the love is still there. A class like this is just a nod towards being objective about the dimensions of how we can make our love work the best that it can.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, Dr. Arjun's second presentation is also going to be more intrinsic to the nakshatra padas and karmas of the individual. I like how Arjun Pai described this. He says, nakshatras are described as fields of karmic seeds waiting to germinate or fructify when desha, place, kala, time, and patra, the actor or individual, aligns with the conditions for its harvest. So there's a real nod to the nature of the karmic energy pockets that we call padas. And for anybody who's interested in learning about padas, this is going to be a wonderful introduction. And as usual, what I love about all these speakers in your conference is we know that they're going to take it from being an introduction and bring it into an intermediate as well.
Yeah, this class is exciting. I would classify it as slightly more advanced.
Cool. That makes sense to me.
Because you're getting into the quarters of the nakshatras. But what this really does, it's an important tool for Jyotisha to, I think a lot of people philosophically wrestle with what exists. Is it fate or is it free will? And in your study of Jyotish, you find that both coexist in this beautiful divine way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a really advanced study of that, how that fate and free will coexist,
Right.
and can both manifest in a person's karma. And I think that's fascinating.
Totally.
Philosophically, very fascinating.
I wonder if he's going to speak to the idea that each nakshatra pada also resonates with the navamsha placement.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that is something like that's probably something he's going to go into. I guess I'm just sort of wondering if you would know.
Dr. Pai loves his divisional charts.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised, but you never know.
Cool. Very good. Thank you, Kṣaṇāti. Now, that is going to be a wonderful class as well. I wanted to speak to Dennis Harness's contribution to this conference. Dennis Harness is a well-known Jyotishi. He's well-known in the Western world. He's really quite the cross-cultural instigator. And in this course, in his lecture here, he's going to have a wonderful time sharing sacred stories of certain people that he's come across and talked to. And I'm very excited to hear some of the stories that Dr. Dennis Harness goes through, including stories with all of the people that we've seen, that we can see here. David Froley is one of them, Hart Defau, James Braha, Dr. B.V. Raman. This is going to probably be a nice overarching view of Jyotish and the attitude that a high respected astrologer like him takes towards it, having seen so many different astrologers and speaking to the proper attitude of how we ought to go about it.
I'm particularly excited for Dr. Dennis Harness's lecture. We have a very special and close relationship, and this is going to be, it's kind of like, when Jyotish has been a part of your entire life for so long. He started doing these conferences in 1992. When Jyotish has been a part of your life for that long, it takes you on quite the ride.
Right.
And this is going to be him talking about his ride with us. And that's so fun and exciting and intimate.
Totally.
This is a particularly intimate lecture.
Cool. I can't wait to check it out. Now, while we've got still a little bit of time here, Kṣaṇāti, I don't want to take too much of your time. That's why I'm thinking of just showing the last pictures I've got in this presentation. I'm excited for Jeffrey Armstrong. He's going to have a short list to an Ayurvedic chart analysis, and he's even going to have a 24-point handout. So he's making it very practical. Jeffrey Armstrong is well known for being this person who has a real connection of general Vedic spirituality to his practice of Jyotish. That's why it's cool that he is also doing a presentation on the Jyotish Gita, the Vedic philosophical basis of Jyotish, which really the Gita has roots in the self in one, which is the self in all, as I like to say. I've been studying the Gita a lot myself. And to see somebody who's doing a nod to the Gita and to the Veda in general is going to be, I think, a great inclusion to all things Jyotish, taking it a little bit out of the astronomical nature and putting it into the hands of a well-rounded spirituality.
Love that, Dustin. Jeffrey Armstrong, known as Kavindra Rishi, he's an integral part of this conference, because as the Parashara conference goes, of course, Parashara is the great sage of Jyotish, but the whole idea is honoring the Rishi,
right?
And Jyotish has sister sciences, including Ayurveda,
right?
Yoga,
right?
Vastu,
right?
And the study of the Vedas themselves, or Vedanta philosophy. And so the integration of, great speakers like Jeffrey Armstrong, who's doing what I call this integrative work, where you're integrating the different Vedic sciences, it's really important, because part of my vision, for this conference, we're even having 2 live musical presentations during the conference. We're having a kirtan done by Durgadas, and we're having a bhakti rave done by Kalidas.
Wonderful.
So it's going to be, and so over the years, Ayurveda, yoga, kirtan are really going to get deeply integrated into this conference. It'll always be Jyotish primarily, but the vision of it in the future is really honoring the rishis of all of the Vedic sciences and integrating them as well.
Wonderful. And that's going to be such an incredible thing for this first conference, and for all these ones to come, is for it to be this multi-leveled and multi-layered in terms of what the Veda gives to humanity as the gift that it is. Wonderful. Okay, so Kṣaṇāti, I'm very excited for these by Jeffrey Armstrong. Now, in our last little bits, more time should be given to Sam Geppi than really we have time here, and really all these folks. But like I said, this is an introduction. Sam Geppi has 2 presentations in mind, as well as he's a really big part of this whole organization, including playing the role of the keynote speaker on Thursday, as we mentioned. Now, I was not surprised to see that Sam Geppi was going to be talking about his 3D Vedic relationship astrology method. That's a wonderful method. Might as well speak to it while we're here. He talks about having these 3 different layers of a relationship. The first is the individual, seeing what they can bring into relationships and how much they're open to enjoying the goodness of the relationship, as well as blocking off the bad in the relationship. The second layer is that relationship itself, based on synastry, conjunctions, and aspects between the charts. I often talk about it as like a plate of food. The plate of food is what it is. But if you don't have a tongue that can taste rasa, that can taste the food, then the relationship can be the best relationship in the world. But if this first aspect, if the individuals cannot taste the food, then it's not going to be what we might expect it to be. Finally, Sam Geppi also gives us the classic Vedic Kuta system and these special relationship factors shown by the nakshatras and the 8 or 10 point scoring system. I've seen some of Sam Geppi's work, and I totally get where he's at with this 3D approach, and I think it's very good.
The 3D approach has to be superior to the 1D or the 2D approach, because
always,
as astrologers, we're always seeing how many different methods we can use to confirm or deny us a hypothesis, let's call it. So Sam using 3 different methods here of showing how relationships work and don't work, and what kind of energies and challenges come up when looking at these different methods. It's very helpful, again, for people looking to find, okay, who am I compatible with? But I don't even think that's as important as when you're in a relationship with someone, looking at these challenges that you experience and trying to grow and trying to evolve. Because, you know, for example, sometimes a button getting pushed is a good thing for our growth.
Totally.
So I think this is a presentation that might open our minds to see, well, not always what's comfortable is what's best for us too.
Totally. And that's going to be an important one for this. I think that he's also got a presentation on moon yogas and sort of an emotional mind reading. And these come straight from Parashara. This class is mostly, this first presentation that Sam Geppi's going to do is really coming from a Parashara perspective, a real good psychoanalytical perspective. Now, I don't want to speak too much to any of these because I don't want to give away the show. But for now, I think that we've done a pretty good drum up of what this conference is going to look like. And Kṣaṇāti, thank you so much for hanging out with me and giving me a glimpse, and as well as for me being able to share with my audience a glimpse at this great conference that you're putting on. You're putting in so much effort, and you probably hear this a lot, but we appreciate you.
Dustin, it's been an honor and pleasure to come on your channel. I know this is just the beginning of some collaborative work that we'll be doing. And just again, lots of love and gratitude from your community.
For sure. So for everybody watching, feel free to check out the description. If you want to get your early bird tickets in, you want to do it before September 1st as well. Well, the early bird ticket is around the end of September that you have till. But if you want to use my promo code, Rock Spirit, feel free to find that in description and get that in before September 1st. You'll have almost 50% off the whole conference. I'm very glad to have hosted you here, Kṣaṇāti, and I'm very glad for everybody for giving us the time to talk about this great unfolding aspect of Jyotish that is happening here on the planet, folks. I really appreciate you, Kṣaṇāti, and thanks again for your time.
Namaste.
Namaste.